The government shutdown is over. And right now, the Senate spending bill that is coming to effect, or supposed to come into effect, is going to basically run, I think it said until about January 30th. So, what does this mean? What's going to happen with our government? What should our government do now? Well, typically this means that there's going to still be a whole lot of fighting, a whole lot of arguing, and not much is going to get done. Because, like we've seen from this Congress, Republicans have control of the House, Republicans have control of the Senate, and they've been able to pass one meaningful bill, the big, beautiful bill. So, what are we expecting? Not much. Typically the same old stuff. But one thing that I want to try and do a little more as of late is we are really, really good with saying what shouldn't be happening, right? One of the big topics over this shutdown was SNAP benefits and the fact that they were going to be defunded. And I think it was 43 or 49 million Americans that rely on SNAP benefits are going to be losing that benefit. And we saw a whole bunch of videos about how they were going to be robbing people and things like that. But the big response from the conservatives were, well, why are there so many people on SNAP? And that's a good question, right? That's a fair question. Well, we know that um, there have been policies in the past, Obama, Biden, encouraging people to jump on SNAP. And it was always meant to be a safety net, to be something that if you need it, it's there. It helps provide you. You get EBT. It's a leg up, right? It's food stamps. But it was never meant to be a way of life. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of people use it as a way of life and rely on it in order to survive. So the big criticism has been, why are there so many people on SNAP benefits? But the issue is there's never a solution. The solution that I've heard predominantly from most conservatives and Republican pundits is, well, rip it away. But what does that really mean? What does that do? Okay, yeah, we rip it away. And now some people trickle in, start to get jobs, right? Try to, at least. Others fall further into poverty because they've never really worked. They've never known how to work. They relied on food stamps their whole life. Maybe they were raised on them. This is just something that they know. So, what we should be doing instead of just going, well, screw them, is trying to offer up some solutions. So, I'm going to go over some, one thing that I think that we should be doing with Snap in order to help people to want to work, want to go and get jobs. But two other elephants in the room. Now, I addressed this on a short the other day where where I talked about military spending, and I also talked about the airlines and air traffic control. And I'll reiterate real quick. Number one, we should not have our military people, our soldiers and such, as discretionary spending. They should not be a group that gets potentially not paid if there's a government shutdown. So if I am the House, the first thing I do once this clean CR comes into effect, once the government gets open again, is I am presenting a bill to make paying our military non-discretionary. That's not a question. We should put them in there so even if the government shuts down, our military always gets paid. Because unfortunately, our soldiers don't have a choice. They're going to go to work. They don't have a choice. But their families are the ones that do hurt from this. And it's a cudgel and it's a weapon. And I know neither side is going to want to get rid of it. But man, we really, really should consider that. That's number one. Number two, I talked about the airlines and why are there so many individuals on the government dime? And I got a whole bunch of responses, especially off TikTok, which was hilarious. TikTok is such a cesspool. And people are like, well, because they're federal employees and it's not because of the bailouts and blah, 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 blah. But exactly like I said, why are we making them federal employees? And other people are like, well, the TAA, the TSA, and the air traffic controllers, whatever it is, AT, they're the government. You really want air traffic controllers to be private? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the private companies hiring and paying them, but they have to complete a standard set by the federal government, right? They need to pass tests or they need to be consistently trained. And the federal government comes down, gives this training to these private organizations who are paying these employees on their own, and they must stay in compliance. I very much work in a job where the state has the standard, the state has the requirement, and I must train within what the state wants. And it changes a bunch, but I must always stay in compliance. I don't work for the state. I work for a private company, but the state sets down the rules for how we are supposed to be compliant with, certain things that we are supposed to teach and things like that. So this is no different than what that would be. Air traffic control, things like that. The TSA is what it is. I really feel like the TSA should be abolished, but the TSA is a federal entity and that is what it is, right? But the air traffic control, that's not a government entity. And the Air Traffic Control Commission could stay as it is, but they could then become a training and overseeing arm so that these private airlines can hire their own workers. And maybe everyone but the TSA, and even the TSA, again, it should be abolished. If these private airlines want to have their own security, let them have their own security. But the TSA should be abolished. It's a joke. But that's just where I was going there. And of course, you have all your trolls saying that this isn't why, blah, blah, blah. But we don't listen to them. Okay. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They look at this in wins and losses. And I don't want to look at it that way anymore. So, what should we do now that the government's about to be open? SNAP funds are going to go back out. All the stuff's going to go back into effect. The entitlements are going to go back into effect. That whatever the federal government gives in entitlements, that's going back into effect. People can start to go to their national parks again. So that's nice, right? The park rangers can get back to work and things like that. But let's get to the big point of this video. SNAP, the entitlements, how do we help them? Now, anyone that's watched this channel, seen the show with David, myself, people we've interviewed, know I am not a big government guy. But I also understand that there are times where government does need to help certain individuals. SNAP, the reason why SNAP first existed was to be a leg up. Social security, I think it was meant to trap people. But again, it's supposed to be a government help when we retire, when we're too old to start working. So we don't have to be like Canada and start suggesting that we murder our elderly because they're not a part of the workforce anymore, which I know Canada's not suggesting that. Get off my back. But here is my suggestion for how we start to help these SNAP recipients, how we start to help people that are in a lot of Section 8 housing, any poor parts of town, or people in general. Because this program that I would like to do isn't fully encompassed just for the poor. It's going to be for anyone that is looking to improve themselves. Now, personally, I would like to see this implemented more at the local level, the state level, at the highest, not really federal, which I know then SNAP would, it would kind of conflict. But even if the federal has to give grant money or things like that for this to work, I feel like this is certainly something we should consider. What there should be is a program that is working with the trades, so it's construction trades or any of your hands-on jobs, whether it's mechanics, specialties, hairdressers, these types of things, and any job where you can kind of have an apprenticeship, right? Where you can have a extended training where you become a master of a craft. The government should be working with private entities. And again, I hate public private partnerships, but sometimes things like this, which aren't necessarily the government owning it, but the government more participating and facilitating, where it's something where individuals can sign up and they can then sit there and say, I want to work in construction. I would love to go be an iron worker. And we then have an iron workers union or a non-union iron worker company that has an apprenticeship program. And this individual through this government program maybe gets an opportunity. Now, I know people are going to say that's unfair, right? Because you have people that apply for these jobs that are just looking to better themselves. You have individuals. I was in a union. You have to go and give an application on the day of and go through an interview process. And I'm not saying that these people should completely cut in line. I think that they should still go through the interview process and stuff like that. But my whole goal with this is to give these individuals a chance in order to get a career. And for me personally, I would like to see Section 8, welfare, all these types of things have to, force people that are able-bodied to enter this program, right? Section 8 welfare should not be permanent staying grounds. EBT should not be permanent staying grounds. They should be places where if you need help, you get it. So if you have to go into public housing, right? If you need a hand, sure, you're in public housing, drug tested, so you're not doing drugs. And also, you're in this program now. Okay, I'm selecting this trade. This is what I want to get into. I'm going to go get training. And then as these people work and they become these apprentices, they move up in their years, they start to get real pay. They start to do real work. Eventually, You earn enough money, you save enough money, the government will kind of watch over a savings, right? Because you're not worried about housing. You're living in public housing, all your utilities and stuff are taken care of. So the government will kind of help keep track of your funds. And then you can eventually go out and buy your own home, rent your own apartment, do these types of things. You'll have a job, you'll know how to work, you'll have a career. And I think that's the difference that I'm trying to get out of this program is it's one thing to go and just get a job that doesn't have benefits, maybe part-time, it's not super reliable. So now you're still stuck on getting government health care. You're still stuck maybe having to need some of these entitlements, right? But if we start to sit there and you train with the career, right? If you want to be an electrician, electrician's a long road. So maybe you're sitting there and that track's a little bit longer, right? Where we give a little more leeway to those that need this public housing because as an electrician, especially with no experience, you're looking at a 6, maybe 7 year track, 2 years of basically carrying tools, and then you start to get in. But once you start to get in, you start to earn real money. And then when you become a journeyman, it's even more money. And now you can go and live on your own. You can have a family. You could do these things. So that is my suggestion. That is what we should be looking for as a government. Instead of sitting there and going, why are there 49 million, 43 million, whatever the number is on SNAP? Let's cut it off. Screw them. They're lazy. Okay, maybe some of them are, right? Maybe some individuals on SNAP are lazy. But I am a firm believer that people want to work. People want to have pride. If it comes easy and they're just handed things, sure, they're going to take it, right? But if you provide a little bit of a kick in the ass, provide a little bit of a push in the right direction, and give them something to be, some of these people maybe wanted to always be a hairdresser, right? And you got to go and you got to learn from a hairdresser. You have to get a chair and be an apprentice, maybe go to hairdressing school, whatever it is. Even if it's, not necessarily, it depends on the state, right? The state's all going to have different regulations. But this is something that I really believe that we should look into at local level's the best, right? If we can get at the town level, county level, best. Once you get up to state, federal starts to get more convoluted. But even if it has to start there, let's pull people off of these entitlements as much as possible, get them as many careers as possible. And even if 10 out of 100 end up being good workers, you've now raised 10 more families out of poverty. You have given them a career. You have now helped their family to maybe produce more middle class citizens, which is what we always need in this country, right? We thrive off the middle class. And now you're allowing that generation to be pulled out of that poverty. That is 10 more generations of kids potentially, up to, a husband and a wife that maybe before with the way the government setup is in order to for it's set up for women to be single if they're both in poverty, right? Because they get more from the government. Maybe this encourages more families to stay together. This encourages, they're both in the program and they're in public housing, and all of a sudden, okay, we have a kid. Now we're not as worried, and it's not going to be more cheap. It's not going to be more lucrative for me as a woman to not have the father around because the government gives me more. No, now I'm earning decent money. He's earning decent money. Let's stay together and figure out how to raise this child together. So I just think that, again, I'm not a big fan of big government programs, public private partnerships, but to me, this is the best way to start pulling people out of poverty. And it gives them careers. It makes them productive members of the workforce. They pay their taxes. And it shouldn't be limited to just them, right? It should be if you get laid off from a job, right? You have a career, you have a job, you get laid off, and you're looking and going, I'm going to put myself in this program. I might be right now a truck driver. I want to go and become a pipe fitter in construction. I'm going to switch careers. Let me go into this program. Boom. Maybe they help get your application there. They show you how to do it. They tell you what day to go there. These types of things where it's just a leg up to get these individuals there. So this is my idea. Is it perfect? Probably not. People are going to poke holes in this. They're going to say, this is stupid because of this reason. This is dumb because of that reason. These people don't want to do X, Y, and Z. But then my challenge is, what's your plan? What's your plan? Because I'm really tired of hearing that, oh, This is the negative. This is what's wrong. This is why, blah, blah, blah. Then let's come up with the plan. Let's figure something out in order to help people, in order to help these communities. Because you want to make communities better, get people to go to work and have pride in their work, not just a job, but have a job and a work and a career that has benefits, that has a pension, that can maybe look at them and they could say, I may have a semblance or a small chance of retiring. Where before it was, I'm always going to struggle. Yeah, it might come easy because I get my food stamps and I don't have to worry about where I live, but it's still a struggle. And that's the main reason why there's so many people drinking all the time, why there's so many people doing drugs. Most of them are not happy where they are. They would love to do more. They would love to be more. Let's give them the ability to be more. So that's my suggestion for what we should do going forward and what we should all push for. Now, unfortunately, apparently the government will stay open until around January 30th. What are they going to do until now? Are they going to work on potentially doing a line item budget? No, they're not going to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to do basically nothing, and then come January, at the beginning of January, mid January, we're going to start hearing about another government shutdown. And what are they going to use? They're going to use SNAP. They're going to say, remember when people didn't have SNAP? They're going to use the military again. Remember when military didn't get paid? And they're going to use the airlines, which they always do. So again, these people don't like to make solutions. They don't care. But us on the ground, us at the lower levels, us who can affect our local government, can affect our stuff like that, we could be the ones that care and we could demand better. So that's my suggestion here. Like I said, people are going to poke holes in it. And I challenge you, think of something better then. If you could think of something better that can help these people, get people off SNAP, get people out of poverty, let's do it. That's what I want to hear. And I don't want to hear free handouts because free handouts have never taken more people out of poverty. What it's done is it brought people lower into it. So I don't want to hear about handouts. This isn't a handout. This is a leg up program which will require the individual to go to work, not do drugs, and better themselves to eventually get them out of that place. Get them out of the place of poverty, get them out of public housing, get them off of government entitlements. But we'll see how it goes. So I appreciate everyone for watching this far. You guys are all awesome. Make sure you check out the show every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Me and Dave will be on there interviewing people. Every once in a while, I'll be on there just looking up at videos and giving reactions. Thank you very much. You can catch us on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, X, Facebook. Go check us out there. Go follow us at the Alex Questa Show on all those as well. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you all. So long now.